So hello everyone. Today I'm gonna explain you that how to implement stack using array. So uh, it could be asked in the interview. So we are gonna implement that into our Visual Studio. Since I can implement that in GFG or other portals, but still I want to implement it over here. So let's start this question. So first of all, what do we all need to do, right? What we all things need to do, since we want to implement it using arrays. So first we do need to have an array, right? Private int array. I'm using a okay. Next, I'm gonna use a top of stack, right? Because that will represent that where is our top of stack and at which index my top of stack is pointing, right? I need to have that private int number of elements, because this number of elements will tell the current number of elements present in a stack, right? Next, I do need to have a max capacity, right? And that is nothing but max capacity of the stack, right? Next, I want to I need to create a constructor. So that constructor will just simply what we will create, like in this we will in this we will put some size, because we need to have the size of the stack, right, which we want to create using the array, right? And next, over here we want to initialize the array. We will write this method after some time. Next, main q. Over here I'll just write main q size. Let's say take the size as 10. Okay. Next I want to initialize, right? So let's initialize the write the initialize method. So I'm gonna initialize my array. Is equals to new size would be nothing but the max capacity could be our size, right? Next, this dot top of stack will initially pointing towards -1, right? Or this dot max capacity is nothing but this dot size, the size which we have like put it into the constructor, which is size is nothing but 10. That is max capacity. This dot number of elements, which is nothing but the current element in a stack at some point of time. So that is initially starts with 0, right? Next, if we next we will write some methods which will be very helpful, which will be very helpful. So let's write some method which is public int. Now if let's say if you want to have a get capacity of the stack, so that will return this dot max capacity, right? Now if we want to return the size of the stack, which is nothing but the current size of the stack, then we want to return this dot number of elements, right? So it will return the size of the stack. Now there could be a condition like overflow exceptions. It can throws an exception, right? It will throw an exception. So if our number of elements is equals to the max capacity, then it will throw new exception, which is nothing but stack overflow, right? If the number of elements which is present in the current stack is equals to the max capacity of stack, then it needs to return an error which is nothing but stack overflow, right? And then next, right? Next is public void, same is as underflow exceptions, right? So that will also throw some exception, right? So if my number of elements is equals to, if my number of elements is equals to 0, that now underflow exception is for that. Underflow exception is basically if your current stack is not having a single element, so we can put a new element into the stack. Overflow condition is what? If our number of elements in the current stack is equals to the max capacity of stack, that means uh, we can't put a new element into the stack. So that is an overflow condition. So right. So now it will also throw a new exception, which is nothing but stack underflow. Now let's write some push function. So now if we want to add the data into the stack, so public void push, let's say we have a data, and since push, let's write something and then we will. So generally let's try in this. Let's say we have some operation like push 10, push 20 and push 30, let's say. This is our actual stack and this is our actual array, right? So now initially 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's say my max capacity of stack is nothing but 3, let's say, right? So, and right now my number of elements is equals to 0. Now, let's say we have an operation like push 10. So we need to push 10 into the array, right? So first of all, right now my top of stack is pointing towards -1. So what we will do, we will increase the top of stack. That would be nothing but now it will become 0. And now we will put the element, this dot array per, now we will put element like this dot array, this dot top of stack is equals to that data, right? So what we will do, we will top of stack is 0. So at index 0, we will put the element 10, right? So now this operation has been completed. A number of elements will also increase, which is 1, because now number of elements is describing that the current element present in a stack. So we can see that the one element is present in the stack, right? So that's why number of elements is now 1. In the actual stack, what is also happening? This is 10. Now somebody now there is another operation which is push 20. So 20 will be pushed onto the stack. First of all, we will just increase the top of stack, and then 20 will be pushed onto the array, and then my number of elements will also increase. And now in the actual stack, what was also happening in the actual stack, we are actually seeing this. We are actually also uh, trying to see the actual stack, that how the stack will look like after pushing all the elements. So turn 20 will be also pushed out. Next 30. So what we'll do, we'll just increase the top of stack value and we'll push the 30 at second index. I'll push the 30 at second index, right? Now we'll push the 30 at second index, and now my number of elements will also increase as 3. And now in the actual stack, what should be happen? 30 should be pushed, and now 30 is also the top of stack. So this is how. Now I can see, now let's say somebody has called another operation which is push 40. Now I can see that my max capacity and the number of elements are equal, right? The number of elements is 3 and the max capacity is 6. That means number of elements and the max capacity are equal. So that means that we can't put this 40 data into our stack, which is nothing but into our array. So that's why where we will get this overflow exception, right? So when we are pushing the data, we need to also take care that we are not getting that overflow exceptions, right? Now since overflow exception can throw an error, right? So we will write over here as well, throws exception, right? This is how we indicate that it can throw that this is how we indicate in Java that this method can return an error, so that we will represent it with the help of this throws exception keywords, right? So overflow exception. Now what we will do, this dot array, this dot, since what we are doing, first of all we are just increasing the top of stack, right? Then we are putting that element into our array, right? So data. And now next what we need to do is we need to also increase the number of elements plus plus, right? This is how the push function should work, right? Now let's say now we need to return pop, right? Let's say after pushing this, our array stack is look like this. Or now let's say somebody has called this operation which is pop, right? Which is pop, and again pop, then again pop, right? 3 times pop. So right now my array is having elements like 10, 20, 30. So what we do when we called a pop operation, my actual array is nothing but 10, 20 and 30, right? So popping, after pop, after pop. So after pop, that will nothing but top of stack will be removed. So that is nothing but 30 should be removed, right? Generally what should happen? 30 should be removed from the actual array. And 30 is nothing but top of stack is pointing towards 2, which is nothing but this index. So what we will do, we will just do that, we'll get this element. So let's say we will get this element temp as 30, and then my top of stack will become 1, and then my number of elements which were 3 right now, my number of elements which were 3, it will be now decreased as 2. So after pop it will become 10, 20, right? So we need to return this temp. Or let's say if now there is another pop operation, then the array will become 10, right? After this pop my array will become nothing, right? So 20 will be popped out, then array will look like something. 10 will be popped out, right? So my array will not have anything. And now let's say somebody has called now pop operation. So it will throw an exception. It will throw an exception that we can't put any new, we can't pop any element from this from the stack, right? So this is how the pop operation is working, right? So now pop operation is nothing but it is throwing an underflow exceptions, right? Since it is an underflow exception, we are calling underflow exception method into this pop function. So it can throws exception. So throws exception, right? Underflow exception. After that, we'll get this element as temp. This is nothing but this dot array. This dot top of stack minus minus. Since we are getting the elements and then first of all we'll get the last element, uh, that is nothing but top of stack element, and then we are decreasing the top of stack value, and then we are decreasing the number of elements, right? And then we want to return the temp, right? This will also this the same method will also work for the peak, because now we want to get the peak element of the stack. So peak element can also throws an exceptions, can also throws exception, right? So it can also throw an exception like underflow exceptions, right? And now what we will do, we are not gonna decrease the value of top of stack because we are not removing the element from the array. We are just getting the value from the array, and this will not affect the number of elements as well. We are just gonna return the temp, right? And next, these are the functions which I thought that they are very important functions. So I have explained to you all the functions, and I hope you also understand the concept very well. And I hope you got the question. I hope you understand the question. I hope you got the question, whatever you wanna say. And yeah, this was it for this video, and I hope you understand this video. And if you understand this question, then please leave a like and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. तब तक के लिए टाटा बाय बाय.